Welcome back to Blocks for Jocks. My name is Alex Feinberg, and this is episode 3. Why do we use paper money instead of gold or silver? Before we take a trip down memory lane, remember that the supply of money has always had to continually increase for the system to function. Back in the day, banks used to hold customers' gold and silver coins and maybe pay a little bit of interest on the deposits. When the customers bought their coins, they received a bill in return. Let's think about that for a second because the wording is really interesting. Presently, we think of bill, as in credit card bill, differently than bill, as in dollar bill. One is good and the other is bad, right? Well, it didn't always used to be that way. As the customer, you held a dollar bill because that dollar bill entitled you to bill the bank for $1. Because back then, $1 was just a big round piece of silver, and the piece of paper was just the bill that told the bank to pay you your money coin. When you would deposit money, which remember was only gold or silver coins and not paper at the time, the bank would hold your coins and give you paper in return that said at any point, bring this piece of paper to us and you can have your money, coins, back. Like today, when a customer would qualify for a loan, the bank would write a couple entries in their books that said, Joey has $100 in account 123 and is expected to pay us back $104 by the end of the year. And when they did that, the banks increased the amount of bills in circulation by $100. But did they increase the amount of gold or silver that they had? No, they didn't. So this would be all fine and well when the economy was growing until people started to realize that there were maybe twice as many bills or banknotes floating around as there were a few years ago. Because remember, that's how the system works. The banks need to continually create more paper for them not to go bankrupt. So people would realize that there's like twice as many bills floating around and prices are going up, but the banks only maybe have the same amount of coins to back them up. So people would get worried and they'd gather their bills and they'd rush to the bank to, bill the bank. But the banks actually couldn't pay their bills because the very nature of their business model, the very nature of loaning out money meant that they created too many bills and they had too few coins to back the bills up. This would result in bank runs and bank failures, and this was not good for them as a class of people. So what did they do to fix it? Eventually, banks convinced Congress to make a law that allowed them to pool their money together and create a master bank, or central bank, that we previously discussed as the Federal Reserve in a prior episode. Over time, this master bank grew to accumulate a lot of power over the economy. After all, by being the master bank, it could control how much money was out there. And if it could control how much money was out there, it could influence prices and the general rate of economic activity. And insiders could make money speculating if they knew what decisions the master bank would make. After all, if you know there will be more money tomorrow, you'll buy something today at a lower price, then you can sell it for tomorrow. But if you know there's going to be less money tomorrow, you sell your goods today because tomorrow, there will be fewer dollars around for people to buy them. So the prices will go down. But besides insiders taking advantage of their knowledge, there was still one huge problem with this master bank's solution. The master bank had the same feature or flaw that the smaller banks had. It had to continually increase the amount of dollars in circulation, or the entire system that it was responsible for would collapse like we discussed before. Okay, you might ask. Well, how did it all end? The US government, which keep in mind is separate from the master bank, was also caught up in the mix. Because in 1944, when World War II was coming to an end, the government convinced many countries to accept our dollar bills, which foreigners didn't really want, by promising them they could exchange 35 of them for an ounce of gold, which foreigners actually did want. However, due to the nature of ever-increasing supply of dollars within the system, by 1971 it became apparent that the master bank had created too many dollar bills and created inflation, and the international community was getting antsy because they didn't think the US actually had enough gold to exchange for the dollars that had been created at the 35-to-1 rate. So foreigners eventually called us out for having created too many dollars and having too many dollars in circulation and not enough gold to actually make good on our $35 for 1 ounce of gold promise. So on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon said, fuck it, you ain't getting your gold back because we ain't got enough to give it to you. And he spun it a little bit by blaming speculators, but he essentially broke the promise that we made in 1944 and switched to the paper-only monetary system that we have today. Why do people still accept our dollars if they're not backed by anything? That's a great question, you might ask, and we will get to this in episode 4.